It is Thursday, February the 24th. I am John Pollock, joined as always by Wai Ting. Welcome to your post-daily news show. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John.
Hello. Salutations.
That is how we start off the shows, saying hi.
That's it. We have exchanged our pleasantries, and here we go for another day. More news to discuss. Anything going on in your world today that you want to bring us all up to date on? How was Thursday, the first half?
It was fine. Yeah. No, nothing really crazy going on here. What about you?
I went out for a walk. It was extremely cold outside. It's Canada. It's the winter, so very, very cold. And that's about it. It's very icy out. This is the wildlife I live with.
Well, I'm trying to think of a segue here. Forgot to mention this yesterday, but our friend Braden Harrington is actually hosting AEW Revolution viewing party. So you can get all of that information at twitter.com/upnextpodcast, I'm sure. But yeah, what a fun warm up, by watching wrestling with some fans.
That'd be a fun show to watch with people. Yeah, Braden's going to be hosting that the night of Revolution at, what is the name?
Hard Luck Bar in Toronto.
Hard Luck Bar. All right. Well, there. And you, the food is being, you can order the food from Sneaky D's. So that's, for those in and around Toronto, I don't think you need any schooling on what Sneaky D's is. But for those that are looking to travel from outside the country for this viewing party with Braden, it's worth it just for the food.
Absolutely. It's an institution, and I believe they are the same owner. So, yeah, AEW Revolution Watch Party hosted by Braden Harrington himself. So go get that information at Up Next Podcast on Twitter.
Yes. Always happy to support our pals at Up Next. Let's get into some of the news items. So Jeff Hardy, breaking news on Wednesday night in this this interview at one of his concerts, and stating that he is going to AEW, and he's very excited about this. So we talked a little bit about this on Wednesday night's show. But wait, as you kind of look at a return of Jeff Hardy to national television and debuting in AEW, what do you see as, like, this is going to be a big investment by AEW to acquire the talent of a Jeff Hardy, and this is somebody that he'll be 45 years old later this year. Where does a Jeff Hardy fit beyond kind of the natural reunion with Matt? I mean, how do you see this Jeff Hardy being utilized beyond just the initial return fanfare that this will obviously generate?
Yeah, I mean, I think he exists somewhere sort of between Sting and, somebody like, I would say, CM Punk or Bryan Danielson in terms of, star power. Certainly, I think Jeff Hardy is probably towards the latter stage of his career at this point. And I don't even know if, they would consider him as a candidate for becoming AEW champion, for instance, a role that at this point seems prime for somebody like a Hangman Page or an MJF. But nonetheless, your opponents for people like a Hangman Page and an MJF, to put Jeff Hardy up in that spot, I think automatically guarantees, a level of mainstream interest to put on your new guys. So he's somebody who obviously can work still, is still far more active, of course, than somebody like a Sting, and carries great mainstream value attached to his name for your future.
They've also been, I would say, by and large, when they have brought in people at this level, and you mentioned a Sting or a Christian Cage, like they have kind of saddled them with a younger talent, like trying to get that sort of star power transferred over to a younger act. And can you see that being a role of the Hardys? Is that coming back? Maybe you build up to the two coming back together as a team, do your dream match scenarios, whether it's a rematch with the Bucks or, there's no shortage of tag teams, FTR, and then sort of link them to another team, whether it's, a babyface version of Private Party or just some team that ultimately gets the benefit here beyond just the Hardys as an act that I think will get over and people will be interested in it. But it's also, this is a very, very crowded television program, and I think that the long-term benefit is that another team gets something out of this too.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily see the two of them as sort of like, mentor, like a team of mentors. I see them maybe, adopting a person, as a part of a stable, perhaps having some sort of loose association with perhaps a single star. But I definitely think that as far as like the tag team division goes, I can totally see them being put to the very top of it, holding those belts again, giving that division some mainstream spotlight and attention, so that your teams like your Jurassic Expresses or Proud and Powerfuls have a mainstream name to go up against, so that they in the future can reach a similar status. I mean, I think we see at this point, for me, I think Matt Hardy's in-ring limitations are a bit more evident, especially like in the AEW style and standard, where everybody moves so fast and is so young. Jeff Hardy, I think, can keep up a bit better, but I don't know. But all that said, it's like, they're still an incredibly valuable acquisition, because at this point AEW doesn't just need another indie team that is amazing. They can use them, of course, but they need your big name stars like the Hardys to elevate those other teams.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone they really need, like outside of this some transformative like who is out there that they would absolutely need. I mean, if
The Rock,
yeah,
John Cena, Brock Lesnar,
exactly.
But I mean,
ones that are not.
Jeff Hardy, though, is he's not any of those guys, but still, like it's Jeff Hardy himself and the Hardys as a team, I think is at least more valuable than your typical WWE release.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm just looking at it that I don't think Jeff Hardy comes at a cheap price, and to justify that, he needs to be utilized heavily. And this is like, we are always talking about this Rubik's Cube of figuring all these different people in, and now you have a 44-year-old that is, you need to justify this with like a heavy utilization, but he does come with a big amount of star power, and I think outside of a WWE environment, that will also be of people's interest as well, to see him outside of WWE, which we haven't seen since TNA and that brief Ring of Honor program with the Bucks. Also on that note, Fightful Select reported on Wednesday that Shane Strickland looks to be like signed with AEW as well, so that's another name bound for AEW, and Buddy Matthews making his on-screen debut on Wednesday night. So it looks like a lot of talent still coming into AEW, and the reverse effect is, again, like coming down to the numbers, and when we see future deals coming up of who may be on the non-renewal list.
Yeah, that's always going to be a question from this point forward, but certainly not slowing down in terms of acquisitions and in terms of spending. And Cody was certainly and continues to be a big talk, but at least this week, it feels like AEW has largely successfully been able to move on with the quality of Dynamite last night, and seemingly, a wide number of talents able to come in to really replenish any lost star power that Cody might have offered. I mean, Strickland is interesting because, presumably he'd be coming in alone, and what would that mean for the Hitmakers?
Mm-hmm, yes, the newly minted Hitmakers, who have been announced for the culture over WrestleMania weekend. I think a lot of people would love to see that group continue outside of WWE at this point. But again, it comes down to, I just think, sheer numbers. It's I think like that. It just always becomes like maybe it's a nice problem to have, but it is also one that you have to be looking at, just like what is the algorithm of the AEW talent structure, because it continues to be one where you sometimes just forget of like some of the talent that you don't see for several weeks, of just how deep this bench goes. And it just seems like when talent becomes available, they are able to find different spots for them.
Yeah. It's still a growing company, and again, the company's name is called All Elite Wrestling, which the more people get released and the more people they pick up, and the more they, I guess, don't re-sign from the bottom of the roster, the more it feels like an all-star team. But I do think that there's going to be continued concern that AEW is simply picking up too many WWE ex-WWE names. Do you find that? I mean, just coming off of last night's news cycle, it's Jeff Hardy, it's Swerve, it's Buddy Murphy.
I don't look at it as that in terms of a just like guys that just kind of get brushed with ex WWE star. I mean, we're talking about the industry leader that has just gone through massive amounts of cuts. It's a natural impression you would have that, you're going to want to go after this talent that has had all of this exposure and that in theory are kind of the top of the food chain that are coming out of WWE runs. I am more interested in how they're going to be utilized in a different system. And what a lot of these talents have in common is that I think most fans look at various talents as ones that did not meet their ceiling inside of a WWE system, and seeing them outside of there go to AEW and be rebranded and presented in a different fashion, so you are not looking at them as a WWE or an ex-WWE personality. But all cases are going to be different. But I think just to look at it as, it's this scarlet letter that you've been in WWE and you don't want to go after them. You have to go after the best talent available. And a lot of that is going to be concentrated from a WWE system when they've cut, upwards of 100 people over the last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the jury's still kind of out on how many people they can concurrently get up to those spots. There's a lot of talent right now. I mean, and when was the last time anybody's really heard of anything of significance from Jay Lethal on an AEW front?
Well, that's it, is that when somebody comes in and, they can disappear very quickly if you're not following like Dark and Dark Elevation. And I don't think the average viewer is, if you are a fan of one of these signings, I don't think you're looking at them to have, matches on Dark and Dark Elevation every other week. You want to see them positioned on the big programs. And yeah, it's like you can quickly get just lost in the shuffle in this company. And over time, I think there are going to be talents that there's going to be that frustration that, you're competing with time with so many of these stars, and you've got to build a show that is going to be the most appealing to the widest, broadest amount of viewers. So that's, that is going to come down to star power. But there's, it's a very difficult show to balance, because you have people that they want to see the women positioned heavily and have, their segments, and you want to like appease all of these different audiences, while at the same time you're trying to put together what is a show that is going to attract the most people and keep a locker room happy, that you're just expanding and expanding. And they're going to AEW with the idea that this is a clean slate and a better opportunity for me. And that's not going to be the case for every talent. It is, and that's, you could argue that's a healthy system, that there's going to be competition, and with a locker room of competitors, that there's going to be TV time for some and not for others. That's how a pro wrestling locker room is going to work. Revolution has now announced 9 matches. So coming out of Wednesday's show, we've got Hangman Page and Adam Cole for the AEW Championship. Is it a pretty solid conclusion on your part, Wai, that will close the show? Can you see an argument for anything else on this show?
Yeah, I certainly can. Especially when you have something, I think, as heated as CM Punk versus MJF, or Moxley Danielson. I see less likely. If there's anything, I could see Tony Khan perhaps breaking his rule of championship matches headlining. It would be a match as big as MJF versus CM Punk, which just feels red hot, even hotter than it was, after last night's incredible promo from MJF. So I could see it, but I do think they'll stick to tradition. I think it's an audience that's willing to accept it. I don't think it for a second, though. I mean, anything can happen, but I could see, especially for Page versus Cole, like for Hangman Page, the audience will still react pretty big.
Yeah, I think Page and Cole is probably your safe bet to close the show. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa for the Women's Championship. So 1 year after the Lights Out match on St. Patrick's Day, they will have the long-awaited rematch. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus against Red Dragon, and to be announced, the winner of the Casino Battle Royale next Wednesday on Dynamite, presumably the Young Bucks, which that should be a terrific match on paper when you're talking about those 6. TBS Championship, Jade Cargill versus Ty Conti. Dog collar match between CM Punk and MJF. The Face of the Revolution ladder match has Keith Lee, Powerhouse Hobbs, Wardlow, Ricky Starks, and 2 more members, one of whom qualified on Rampage, but I will not ruin Rampage for people. Bryan Danielson against Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston against Chris Jericho, and the Trios Tornado match with TNT champion Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting against Andrade El Idolo, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy. So 9 matches. It's pretty full at this point. I could see maybe another match. Could you see Hook and QT Marshall being added to this pay-per-view? Is Hook pay-per-view ready?
I absolutely think he is. Yeah, like a Hook squash match I think would be great, but I don't think the card needs it. In fact, I think 9 cards is already one. You're probably looking at something that could probably be slimmed down on its own. So maybe the trios match goes on the kickoff, and then you have an 8-card match, which I think is really plenty, especially if some of these are going to go long.
Yeah, it's a loaded show. I mean, this looks like a very, very intriguing card on paper as we get closer. With ratings delayed, we are getting up to date now, so we have numbers for Raw and NXT. We'll start off with NXT Tuesday night, back on the USA Network, averaging 612,000 viewers, a .12 in the demo, 157,000 viewers in that demographic. Number 43 among cable originals, so not quite at their USA average for 2022, below that, but certainly a sizable increase over the sci-fi episodes, including last week's Vengeance Day special. So there we go, NXT. With a Matt, I guess when you look at this number, Wade, like since AJ and Grayson Waller, this was the latest main roster talent having a match on the show. And do you look at the numbers as, yes, this is a rebranding that is still continuing to find its legs, but you've also never had this level of promotion from the main roster, in particular Raw. I would say going back to like that 2019 period when they first got on USA and had the integration. But there is like the most cross promotion that we have seen, and they are at this level right now. Is this just sort of the NXT 2.0 level that we are going to see?
Yeah, I think so. I think that this still seems within range. But however, I think any sort of promotion that you can give it on Raw, certainly I don't think hurts Raw, and can only potentially benefit NXT on the same network that you're airing Raw on in the long term. I mean, 1 week's of integration of seeing Tommaso Ciampa on Raw, I don't know, pinning Dolph Ziggler in the ring, I don't think it's going to make any sort of difference. But in the weeks ahead with prolonged continued story build, there's certainly the potential. For me, it actually freshens up Raw, so it has that benefit as well.
It also did 78,000 viewers in Canada, a slight decrease from last week's Vengeance Day special on Sportsnet 360. Raw on Monday night did 1,826,000 viewers, 0.51 in the demo, also returning to the USA Network after 2 weeks on Sci-Fi. They were number 1 for the night on cable. It was their second highest viewership of the year, and in 18 to 49, this was their best number since November 22nd, which was the night after the Survivor Series. So this didn't quite reach the level way of the mysterious egg that was the focus of that episode of Raw. But this was a very strong return for Raw to USA. Brandon Thurston has a breakdown of the quarters. The first quarter did a huge number, over 2.1 million viewers tuning in for that opening segment with Brock Lesnar. It fell throughout the show, 14% in viewers, 13% in the demo. But I would say a very strong showing for Raw back on the USA Network.
Yep, yeah. Probably enjoying the what buzz there might be coming towards WrestleMania, and having the level of star power of Brock Lesnar. I mean, it's really Brock Lesnar coming out and in that cowboy hat, I think really was the reason for the 2 million.
And then they got their fill, and then you got a little bump there for the Logan Paul reveal during Miz TV, and then a slow slide in viewers towards the end of the show. That third hour is just a killer for people.
Can you put anything in the third hour and really expect that
I
much of
don't
a
think so.
difference?
I've made that argument. I don't think you put your biggest segments in that third hour. I think it's just it's a losing proposition that it's fatigue is not going to override anything. And that I don't look at this as an indictment of who you put in that main event, because I think anyone in that role in the final hour, especially the final segment or two, I think there's going to be that loss. It used to be the complete opposite, where everything would peak in that during the 2 hour era for the last hour at the very same time. We're not even talking about an adjustment of the time of the evening, but fans are creatures of habit, and the new habit is you tune in early. We usually this time of year see the spike in the second hour. This week was hour one. But that third hour, like enough of the audience, especially like your 50 plus audience, it was like a 0.98 in the first hour. Hour three is a 0.83. It's just like people are 18 to 34. It's like 23% drop in the from hour one to hour three. So that's I just think the third hour, it's like that's going to always drag down the Raw number. You assess this on like a 8 to 10 p.m. Curve, then like Raw's number like that's. Those are very, very impressive numbers each week. And it's impressive even with the 3 hours. Like, you can see where they are placing. Like, Raw is in a great position as they are moving forward.
Time to add a fourth.
You joke about such things. I will not laugh at such a notion that one day that might be it though for me. That might be my my tap out moment on Raw reviews on Monday nights. Let's continue on. Just a few more minutes here. Terminus 2 is happening tonight. I'm looking forward to this card. It's their follow-up to their debut event in January. For those unfamiliar, Terminus is the company that was founded by Baron Black and Jonathan Gresham and put out their first show last month. So tonight's show in Atlanta, it's streaming on Fight TV, will feature Jonathan Gresham against Santana. And I know this is not the biggest platform in the world, but it's Santana in a main event setting, challenging for the ROH title, and I think it's a very interesting kind of example to see Santana in this role, which I think a lot of people see that ability for him to be a main event level star. He has certainly showcased it with his promo ability, and we're gonna get to see him headline a show tonight. I would say like this is a big test for Santana just to see how he comes off in this main event singles scenario.
I'm certainly very excited to see it. I mean, over the past year, I think this guy's really taken a step up in the promo department, and I think at this point, everybody is really just kind of waiting for AEW to give, first of all, Proud and Powerful the proper push towards, leading that tag team division. But then even beyond that, Santana as a single star is somebody that everybody's looking for him to break out to. So if AEW is not going to really do it yet, let's see how he does in Terminus.
Other matches on the card include Shane Strickland against Davey Richards, Serena Deeb against Liza Hall, Invictus Cash against Adam Priest, a terminal eliminator four-way with Chris Sabin, Trey Lamar, Leon Ruff, and Kenny Alfonso. Jay Lethal will take on Baron Black, Dante Caballero, and Joe Keys against Daniel Garcia and Kevin Blackwood, and Queen Amanada versus Killa Kate. So that's happening tonight from Atlanta. So should be an interesting show to watch with the follow-up. And I don't think they will have a snowstorm to deal with like they did for that card in January.
Well, that's good. That's always nice.
Always nice when there's no snowstorm. Don't book cards up here in Toronto. I think we're still due for, what do you say, Wade? At least one more crazy snowstorm, I think.
Don't drink. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Impact tonight is going to feature Eddie Edwards. Why, Eddie? Why? He is going to explain the difference between himself and Eddie Kingston. He will be explaining his actions for turning on Team Impact at the No Surrender event this past weekend. We will also get, what do we have here? Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Kenny King taking on Chris Sabin, Willie Mack, and Rich Swann in a six-man tag. Moose is going to kick off the show. Open challenge for Deonna Purrazzo's either her Ring of Honor women's title or the Reina de Reinas championship. And the match that I know you are waiting for, Way. There, Matt Cardona, Jordan Grace, no DQ, no countout. It is a combat match.
Is that what combat means? No DQ and no countout?
Combat match involving your digital champion.
Well, hold on a second. Okay, so what What about, I don't know, web searching or internet programming like would lead to no DQ and
Well, it's playing off of your digital championship, so you got to have a digital themed match. So thus we got dot combat.
but why but how does that manifest itself into no DQ, no count out?
I don't know. Maybe there will be like buffering issues when you're watching it tonight. Maybe like you'll get the just the circle on the live transmission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. Okay, cool.
And then Zicky Dice versus Jonah, and Bhupinder Gujar versus John Schuyler. And then before the Impact has Jake Something and Trey Miguel against Ace Austin and Speedball Mike Bailey. We've got MLW Fusion tonight. So there you go. Just a regular night of wrestling. Hours and hours of wrestling, like every single night.
As it should be, John. There can
No,
never be
as
enough.
I think there is a limit to professional wrestling on every single night of the week. But we're at listen. There's people that are.
We have the ability to pick and choose, and that's what's nice.
See, Way's having a whole viewing party tonight, and they're already at his house, like knocking. They're like, "Hey, we are ready for the dot combat match. We're gonna have some dot combat right here in my house."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. I think the match might be being filmed outside of Way's room here. But we are going to be back. You can check out Rewinded Dynamite from Wednesday night, a full review of the show from Bridgeport, Connecticut, featuring the much discussed MJF promo, which God bless the wrestling fandom out there that located Max Friedman's Facebook post from 2015, pretty much backing up this promo that he posted the photo of Punk and Danielson shaking hands in the ring and leaving his football aspirations for professional wrestling. I mean, this is going to be maybe the most discussed promo of the year.
Yeah, I certainly think so. It's gotten a lot of discussion tonight, and it's completely based in reality, right? So very much looking forward to seeing how they follow up next week.
Can we thank the Twitter account that posted this? Can you scroll up there? Big shout out to Drain Bamager.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure somebody maybe a contingent of people are going through every wrestler's Facebook history to see what potential linking material there might be to modern day promos.
Yeah, there you go. Public profiles. Beware. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. Post Daily News Update Friday, live at 1 Eastern, and Rewind to SmackDown Friday night, which is live and available for all patrons at postwrestlingcafe.com. Way and I will be reviewing SmackDown and Rampage. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in for another Post Daily News show.